A very good morning and welcome all of you to the daily news analysis for 28th of April 2025. Today we are going to discuss about Syria, what is happening in Syria, Democratic Republic of Congo, and also what's happening in Turkey with regard to this demand for a separate state of Kurdistan. Back home in India, we are going to discuss about the uncontested candidates. Should NOTA be made a compulsory option? Should NOTA be treated as a separate candidate when it comes to declaring the winner candidates in the non-contested, uncontested constituencies? So this is the case going on in the Supreme Court, guys. Now, corporate social responsibility funds. An uptick has been witnessed that 18,000 crore rupees are being spent by the corporates through their social responsibility. In the light of this news article, we are going to discuss about UPSC essay paper as to why the philanthropy, the donations in India have to be mandated as a social responsibility, have to be made legally binding. Unlike in the countries like USA, where we see Warren Buffett model operating there, people donate their entire wealth at the end of their lifetime. Why in India, the Ambanis, the Adanis, they do not come forth themselves? Then there was also a question of UPSC Prelims 2024 on this corporate social responsibility. CAG audit, we are going to discuss about these things, like what does the CAG audit of corporate social responsibility funds say on the last 2-3 years trend. So these are going to be the topics that we are going to discuss with regard to this. Now, Philippines and US test air defense as China seizes reef. So today we are going to discuss both the West Asia, Middle East and North Africa region, and also the Southeast Asia insofar as this Philippines South China Sea dispute is concerned. Many a times UPSC has asked a question on this 9-dash line, Spratly Islands. Today we are going to see 2-3 more islands with regard to this issue in the news today. So let's get started without much ado. These are the news topics that we are going to discuss in today's news analysis. As I said, from the map section, Democratic Republic of Congo and M23 group, which is being backed by Rwanda. What is the dispute? M23, Rwanda on one side and Democratic Republic of Congo, they are now expected to sign a ceasefire agreement. Many a times in our exam, UPSC has asked these type of questions as to what is going on in a particular part of the world. So awareness of these topics is required. Then ISRO's second short hot test, semi-cryogenic engine, a success. Second hot test of semi-cryogenic engine. What is a cryogenic engine? What is a semi-cryogenic engine? As UPSC has been asking questions around the application of this, what is synthetic aperture radar, which is going to be launched with the help of this semi-cryogenic engine based satellite. So we are going to discuss these issues with regard to science and technology in today's news analysis. So let's get started. First of all, from the map section, Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda agreed to draft peace deal by May 2 under the pressure of US and under a deal which has been sponsored by the Gulf countries, Qatar. One of the Gulf countries, Qatar, and also United Nations is also involved in this. Okay, Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo have agreed to draft a peace deal by May 2, 2nd of May. It is expected. In the last 2-3 years, since 2021, I would say, they have signed a truce, they have signed a peace deal 6 times. But this peace deal is very, you can say in a way, it's a very fragile thing between these countries. Okay, it's not a permanent kind of a thing. So that is why it remains to be seen. But first of all, let's try to understand if this area, Democratic Republic of Congo, does it fall on the equatorial line or not? Please answer this question quickly. You should be knowing about these things. Okay, what is the most important water body in this region between Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo? This is how we gradually develop our knowledge with regard to map. Okay, why this is happening? North Kivu province of Democratic Republic of Congo has been the center of tension between Rwanda. M23 force has been backed by Rwanda. So they have been supporting this force to fight a war with Democratic Republic of Congo. Even though the name is democratic, but there is nothing democratic in the Democratic Republic of Congo because of the dictatorial tendencies of the regime there. Okay, so peace deal has to be drafted, committing to respect each other's sovereignty and refraining from providing military support to the armed groups like M23. What is M23 group? Question can be asked in this manner, that M23 group, which remains in news, has been in news because of which area? Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Sudan. What is the area? Okay, this clipping I have taken from Al Jazeera website because it wasn't covered extensively in the Hindu newspaper today. Okay, now let's have a look here. Equatorial Guinea, then Gabon, these countries are there. Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, do they fall on equatorial line or not? This is the basic question I'm asking you. Then what is the water body that is located here? Okay, water body that is located in this region, you have to answer. And if we check out this region, Central African Republic, is anything going on in here insofar as domestic disputes, civil strife is concerned? No. South Sudan, yes, we have been covering Sudan and South Sudan. They got separated in 2011. What is the river body here? We have talked about in the last 1-2 weeks. Okay, Tanzania, India and Tanzania conducted an exercise. Dar es Salaam was the name of the port which was in news. After that, 1 week back, last week on Friday, we talked about Kenya and China affair. Okay, just a coverage of revision of the things that we have covered in last 1 week, guys. So this is how, if you have been consistent in answering the questions that I have been asking, you would have developed, 5, 6, 7, 8 issues I have just highlighted of last 1 week. Okay, 3-4 issues. This is how gradually you can pick up. Please try to answer, look for yourself. What is the name of the exercise that was conducted between Tanzania and India? This was there in news around April 17. Okay, so April 17. Then Kenya, China. What has China done in Kenya? Kenyan president went to China last week. So what happened there? What kind of a deal have they signed? Then here at the coast here, what is the name of the country where China has set up a naval base? This also I had told you. So this is with regard to now Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Rwanda is favoring, or Rwanda is supporting M23 armed rebels group. Okay, so this remains in news because of Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Simple thing here. Coming to the other aspect, the US brought the two countries' foreign ministers, Democratic Republic of Congo's foreign minister and Rwanda's foreign minister. Okay, Democratic Republic of Congo, since it is mineral rich, that is why many countries previously, France, then now USA and Rwanda, they have been fighting amongst each other. The most important problem of Africa, why Africa has not been able to develop itself, is the problem of abundance, the problem of the way in which the erstwhile colonial powers in Africa, they left it. Okay, they left it in lurch in the sense that they did not institutionalize democracy like the way the Britishers did to India and Pakistan, sowing the seeds of hatred. Here, their the European powers, puppet leaders have been installed here, as we saw in Libya, as we saw in Arab Spring or Jasmine Revolution, which led to overthrow of dictatorial regimes. So that is why the major problem, UPSC had asked this type of a question many a times in the past, why Africa is not able to develop itself despite being resource rich, despite being mineral rich. Okay, you see so many countries we have highlighted, Kenya, Ethiopia, then you talk about, Somalia, then you talk about Sudan. Okay, then you talk about this Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Time and again we see Africa in news because of these civil strifes, the power struggles between the leaders, the puppet leaders and their army generals. That is happening in Sudan also, South Sudan also, Somalia, then Yemen also, Middle East and North Africa region if we talk about. Coming to the other news article of the day, Philippines and US test air defense as China seizes reef. China has taken the control of a reef here which is near this island. Let's talk about this island. First have a look at this area. We keep on having a look at this area many a times. Okay, so now US is coming to the rescue of Philippines, and otherwise a weaker country in comparison to China's rising naval power. So Philippines and China have been engaged in months of constant confrontation over the South China Sea, which China claims nearly in its entirety, despite an international ruling by United Nations, ruling under United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. So you have to answer which is the body which handles the disputes under, or which handles the disputes related to United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. Is it some tribunal? What is the name of the tribunal? If it is a tribunal of, or it is an international court of justice, what is the name of the body? China, even though, has been disrespecting all such bodies or norms, but we need to be aware of the tribunal, we need to be aware of adjudicating authority under this thing. Like we talk about the Permanent Indus Commission or neutral arbiter under Indus Water Treaty, we have to talk about the tribunal, the adjudicatory body in this context. Okay, so now coming to this news, the name of the island, etc. This island is Thitu Island. Okay, a very small another island that is located near the Thitu Island called Pagasa. That is the bone of contention. Now China has encroached upon this thing. It is a sandbank kind of an island, a part of Spratly Islands. So what is it? Spratly Islands is a broad part of islands. Okay, so 9-dash line, China has carved out a 9-dash line. It says that what area lies within the 9-dash line belongs to China. All right, within the 9-dash line, there is a group of islands called as Spratly Islands. Within that Spratly group of islands, there is a tiny island called Thitu. Within Thitu, there is this Pagasa Island that we are talking now. Okay, so China has taken the control of this Pagasa Island now. This is the bone of contention. What is US and Philippines doing now? So as a response, as a measure of support towards Philippines, US missiles and Philippines missiles were fired off the coast of northern Philippines on Sunday as US and Filipino forces conducted their first integrated defense drill. Integrated means Navy, Army and Air Force will participate. Okay, hours after China said it has taken the control of a reef claimed by Manila. Manila is the name of the capital of Philippines. Okay, so what is happening here? Thitu is the name of the broad island within which there is a small island or sandbank called as Pagasa. China has taken the control of this Pagasa Island. How the UPSC has asked question in the past? UPSC's question have been, which all countries are embroiled in the dispute with regard to South China Sea? Which all countries are there? You have to name the countries, and sometimes arranging the countries in the order from north to south. Do this today, okay, or their capital cities. Whenever our Prime Minister or India's engagement with this Southeast Asian region has increased, UPSC has asked a question like, arrange the capital cities of these countries from north to south. See things for yourself. Why this area is important? Because Asia, Southeast Asia, India located in South Asia, Southeast Asia, West Asia, predominantly most number of questions have been asked from this region, and questions have coincided with Prime Minister's visit to this region, Vice President of India's visit to this region. Okay, so Armenia, Azerbaijan, you can see through the previous year questions, but today's task is to answer what are the names of the capital cities of the Southeast Asian countries from north to south. Okay, and also answer where all there are some important straits in this region. Where all did India have its presence? Lombok Strait, we are talking about the strait near Singapore where we have taken control. So please try to keep revising these things. Okay, now Taiwan is also at dispute with China. Then we see Vietnam is also embroiled in dispute with China. Our company ONGC OVL has bagged some important contracts for oil and gas exploration, which come into direct conflict with China's claims. Okay, the 200 nautical miles EEZ limit is the bone of contention between these countries. Nautical miles thing. Then United Nations Convention on Law of Sea, we have talked about. Let's have a look at another angle from the perspective of East China Sea, from the perspective of Japan and China. UPSC question 2022. Why am I asking you to be thorough with this region? Is this many a times questions from West Asia, Southeast Asia. West Asia, we talk about Mediterranean Sea, etc. Now here, which one of the following statements best reflects the issue with Senkaku Islands, sometimes mentioned in the news? It is generally believed that they are artificial islands made by a country around South China Sea. China and Japan engage in maritime disputes over these islands in the East China Sea. Then, a permanent American military base has been set up here to help Taiwan to increase its defense capabilities. Okay, so these are the questions. Let me first see if any issue is there with regard to audio video. Is everything going fine, Vikas and Rakhi? Okay, so these things are there. Now, though the International Court of Justice declared them as no man's land, some Southeast Asian countries claim them. So I have asked some questions, the answer to which lie in the previous year question that we have just seen. Okay, so be thorough with these things. Now coming to the third issue from the maps or from the international affairs, Syrian presidency. As there has been a change of guard in Syria, the new Syrian president has taken over. The demand for Kurdistan, okay, Turkey, the other day we saw that Turkey rejected the demand for this part of, Turkey. Kurds, a very rebellious group of tribal group of people, okay, they have been demanding a separate country which comprises the parts of 5 countries here: Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria. I mean 4 countries, and then some part of this country here. Okay, then this demand has been raising its head first in Turkey, and now they are pressurizing the newly elected or newly planted leader of Syria after the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad. Now they are pressurizing the newly elected leader of Syria that we want this control of this area. The self-democratic self-defense forces of Turkey, this Kurdistan region, okay, SDF leaders, they are holding demonstrations in this region asking for independence of this region, the yellow region that you see across these countries. Okay, so mainly Turkey, Kurd people, Kurds are from Turkey mainly, they are demanding this country, right? As the Iran's influence is going down, so these people, Kurds are in, up in their arms against the Syrian regime, the Turkish regime, and also the Iranian regime. In Iran, I would say they had conducted a plebiscite in the recent past. Okay, plebiscite is determining themselves as to where do they want to go, with which country do they want to go, or they want to have an independent country. Syrian presidency rejected the Kurdish call. Now come to the news clipping here. Syria's presidency has rejected the newly elected, the president who has taken over the reins of power. He is rejected the Kurdish call for a decentralized state, warning against attempts at separatism or federalism by the minority group, the Kurds. Okay, now Syrian president condemned the recent activities and decentralization and declarations of the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. Okay, so SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces, they are demanding autonomy. They are demanding more federalism after the takeover of the new president of Syria, which the president has rejected for now. Okay, a very minor issue though, but we should be aware of what is happening in this Middle East and North African region. So this is of Middle East, West Asia though, so we should be aware about these things. Okay, now questions before the Supreme Court. This is the article of Indian Polity, GS Mains Paper 2. Are unopposed elections victories unconstitutional? These unopposed election victories are declared in the Representation of Peoples Act 1952. If the petition has been filed by one of the non-for-profit organizations, Vidhi Center for Legal Studies, which is now saying that these Vidhi Center, first of all, this is a think tank you should be knowing about. It has challenged in the Supreme Court that why a candidate whose election, I mean, if this is the EVM, okay, and this is the candidate. Usually what we see, this is candidate 1, candidate 2, or maybe candidate 3 are also there. Okay, so 3 candidates are there. But if there is just one candidate, there is no other candidate, the section 53 of RPA, it says that he will be declared as unopposed. If the section 53 clause 2 says that if the number of candidates is equal to the number of the seats in the constituency, then this person will be declared as uncontested winner. There need not be any election. Okay, he will be declared as uncontested winner. Election need not be conducted, as the nomination papers have been filed by just one candidate, so there is no need for election. Okay, but the plea filed by the versus, this is a case in the Supreme Court. Vidhi Center has said that this is a points by Vidhi Center, freedom of speech and expression of voters. Okay, voters have a right to choose, at least to express their choice. Second thing is NOTA, none of the above choice. So Vidhi Center for Legal Studies is saying that by not contesting the elections, we are depriving the voters of their right to make a choice. Depriving the voters is a part of right to vote. So this section is illegal, or this section is depriving of the citizens of their fundamental rights. What is the fundamental right? Fundamental right to choose the candidate of their own choice. But Election Commission is not happy with this. Election Commission is opposing this. Election Commission says that since the mandate of NOTA judgment of the Supreme Court was to eliminate the candidates who are not of credentials, candidates who are of bad image, or who have a tainted image, who have a criminal image. Since there is one candidate, there need not be election. Why? Because this candidate is the only choice that the voters have to make. Vidhi Center says that no, there has to be minimum number of votes criteria. At least a threshold of votes should be defined, that this candidate should have minimum number of votes to be declared as a winner. Okay, threshold number of votes has to be there in order for this candidate to be declared as a winner without contesting the election, without actually facing the EVM, even though he is the single candidate. This is not a right way in a democracy. Okay, so that is why. Now go through it one by one. Very quickly we will cover this. This is the news clipping that has appeared in the Indian Express today. So we are covering it very quickly. The Supreme Court suggested that in case there is only one candidate in an election, she or he should be required to obtain a prescribed minimum number of votes. Okay, a prescribed minimum number of votes he or she should secure to be declared as a winner. In order to be declared as a winner, guys. Okay, otherwise what will happen is, in order to be declared as a winner, rather than winning without election being held at all. Now, the court was hearing a petition by legal research think tank Vidhi Center for Legal Policy. What is the other center? Association for Democratic Reforms. We keep on hearing about these two. Okay, questioning the constitutionality of Section 53 Clause 2 of Representation of Peoples Act 1951. Now, what is the probability of question being asked? Okay, what is the probability of question being asked? So the probability is, many a times we have seen in the past that NOTA type of questions have been asked from this topic. Okay, the candidate can contest election from how many seats? This was another question. Now I ask you, is there any limit on the number of seats a candidate can contest in elections? This is the first question based upon the previous year questions of UPSC. What is the subject matter of our discussion today? The subject matter is that if there are no other contestants from a constituency, can the candidate be declared as winner unopposed? Declaring the winner unopposed deprives the voter of their freedom of speech and expression under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause A. Okay, so this is the crux of the matter. Vidhi Center for Legal Studies, a not-for-profit think tank, has asked that whether Section 53 is right or wrong. Should it survive the judicial scrutiny, especially in the light of the NOTA judgment of the Supreme Court? If there are no other candidates, at least NOTA is there. Okay, so now the plea in the Supreme Court is, can the NOTA as an option be declared as NOTA as a candidate? You getting my point? Okay, so let's go through the lines quickly. Section 53 of the Representation of Peoples Act 1951, procedure in contested and uncontested elections. It says that Section 53 says that if the number of candidates is equal to the number of seats to be filled, the returning officer, number of candidates is equal to the number of seats to be filled. So that means number of candidate is 1, number of seat is 1. Then the returning officer of the election commission shall declare all such candidates to be duly elected to fill those seats. If the number of candidates is 2 and the number of seats filled is also 2, then these two candidates will be declared as a winner. There is no need to hold the elections. No need to hold the elections. This is what the Section 53 of RPA Act is saying. But Vidhi Center says that this is against the present times of democracy. Why? Argues that petitioner Vidhi Center is saying that not holding elections with a single candidate deprives the voters of none of the above choice. Because what has happened, the election commission has given the data that in the 2024 elections only one candidate has emerged as a winner unopposed. So there is no need to have a NOTA, the contest between the NOTA as an option versus the candidate. So if this is a candidate versus NOTA, election will be held. So why to hold election? This is what the Election Commission of India is saying. Okay, why Election Commission, which is there to ensure free and fair elections, is hesitating from giving this option? Let the candidate see whether the candidate is of a tainted image. Okay, because of his Bahubali, because of his hooliganism, because of its criminal image of the candidate, other candidates are not contesting the elections at all. He will emerge as a winner. Okay, we have so many of criminal politicians today. So even though the era is of lawfulness, but lawlessness is still there. Okay, there have been constituencies, there are still many constituencies where this criminalization of politics is at its peak. So this phenomena deserves attention. Okay, NOTA should be given an option to even the single member, even the single contestant constituencies. Now, claims this violates the fundamental right. Vidhi Center says that this violates the fundamental right to freedom of expression under Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause A of the Constitution, citing Supreme Court's judgment in People's Union for Civil Liberties, that is the NOTA judgment of Supreme Court. Okay, right to disapprove of all candidates should apply regardless of the number of candidates. Even if there is one candidate, right to reject through NOTA should be given to the voters in the constituency. Okay, now 26 Lok Sabha constituencies saw uncontested elections between 1951 and 2024. So Election Commission is saying that only 26 Lok Sabha constituencies have seen this thing. Okay, so there is no need to have this kind of an option because the number is very minimal, minuscule, ridiculing the number. 26 candidates, 26 Lok Sabha constituencies since 1952. This is what Election Commission is saying. But Vidhi Center says that 82 lakh voters have been deprived of their right to vote in such a scenario. After 2013, this deserves attention. Why? Because voters have now the choice of NOTA. Mentions the recent uncontested election of BJP candidate in Surat in 2024. States that uncontested elections are more frequent in state legislative assemblies. Election Commission says that not many elections have happened when we consider the Lok Sabha number. Vidhi Center says that you talk about state legislative assembly constituencies where the phenomena of uncontested seats is rampant, is more than the phenomena of uncontested seats in Lok Sabha constituencies. Okay, so this is there. Now, points out that only 9 out of 20 Lok Sabha elections had uncontested MP elections. This is what ECI is saying. ECI does not want to give this option of NOTA in the uncontested constituencies. Notes that only one candidate has been elected unopposed in Lok Sabha since 1989. Only one candidate, indicating its rarity due to increased political participation. There are not many constituencies where there is only one candidate. Alright. So, argues that NOTA cannot be automatically assumed to contest every election. So it's a case of having NOTA versus the single candidate constituency. Should we contest? Should we conduct the elections, installing, institutionalizing EVMs in even those constituencies which are having just one contestant? This is the crux of the matter. Can the question be asked? Yes, you need to be thorough with this section 53, that in the uncontested constituencies, the vote election need not be held. This is the case going on in the court. Whenever the judgment will come, we'll update you through this medium of daily news analysis, guys. Okay, now coming to the other aspects. Okay, contends that treating NOTA as a mandatory contesting candidate, Election Commission of India is not happy. It says that treating NOTA as a mandatory contesting candidate in every election, uncontested election, requires the amendment in the law, which is the job of the parliament. Election Commission cannot do anything in this regard. This is what the ECI head, Election Commission of India, has said now. The views of the Supreme Court judge, he questioned the logic of automatically declaring a single candidate elected without any votes. You know, guys, what happens if any candidate dies before the elections? Okay, then elections are cancelled in that constituency if this kind of a tragedy happens within 48 to 72 hours before the conduct of elections. Okay, but if the candidate has been murdered or threatened 1 month before the elections, that prospective candidate, that prospective winner, may not file the nomination papers. So any other person, Bahubali, any other criminal element will contest the election unelected, uncontested. He will be declared as a winner. Should he not be put to vote through the NOTA by giving the chance to the voters of the area? Maybe there are 5,000 NOTA votes against him and just 5,100 positive votes against him. Should there be a, what is your opinion on this? Should there be a minimum threshold number of votes that a candidate needs to secure in order to be declared as a winner, at least in the uncontested constituencies? 10 votes, 10% of the total votes of that area, total valid votes of that area being cast, 20%. Okay, so what should be the way out from this thing? Prelims part I have underlined. Okay, now unable to get, Supreme Court said that there are some candidates who are unable to get even 5% support, they enter the parliament by default. Not to talk about parliament, talk about state legislative assemblies. This phenomena is even more. Because of the first past the post electoral system, we have this faulty system that any candidate who is able to pass the winning poll, just by securing 1 vote or 2 votes, will be declared as a winner, irrespective of his credibility, irrespective of the total number of voters in this area. Okay, so that is why this is there. Now, coming to the other important issue, science and technology here, ISRO's second hot test of semi-cryogenic engine as a success. What is a cryogenic engine? Quickly, I'm telling you, liquid plus liquid. Okay, so liquid fuel, liquid propellant. Okay, oxygen, liquid oxygen is used and hydrogen is used as a fuel. But in the semi-cryogenic, liquid oxygen is used along with the kerosene. Okay, so semi-cryogenic engine is now being tested for the upcoming mission of ISRO to launch the semi-aperture, the radar in the synthetic aperture radar in the coming days. So, Indian Space Research Organization conducted the second short hot test to test the fuel efficacy, to test its engines capability to actually convert the kerosene and liquefied oxygen as a fuel. Semi-cryogenic. Semi-cryogenic means completely liquid. Semi-cryogenic means partly liquid, partly the solid state of the fuel. Okay, semi-cryogenic engine at its facility has been tested. Now, this ignition test conducted on April 24 is the second milestone after the first successful hot test on March 28, which was a major breakthrough in semi-cryogenic engine state. Now, what is the benefit of semi-cryogenic engine? During the test, the engine was successfully ignited and operated. This is called as hot test. Ignition and operation of the engine. Okay, ignition, the starting of the engine, and operation of the engine. 60% of its rated power level, demonstrating stable and controlled performance. Okay, so engine power head test article encompassing all engines. So what is the fuel here? Kerosene is there, and then your liquid oxygen that is otherwise used in the cryogenic engine. The results provided a crucial data to finalize the operational sequencing of the full semi-cryogenic engine. So we are now developing the cryogenic engine capability after having fully developed the cryogenic engine capacity. Okay, so a semi-cryogenic engine is a type of liquid rocket engine that uses a combination of a cryogenic oxidizer, typically liquid oxygen, LOX, and a non-cryogenic fuel such as refined kerosene, RP1. Okay, so semi, that is why it is called as semi. Now this contrasts with the fully cryogenic engine that uses both liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen as a propellant. Here kerosene is going to be the propellant in the semi stage. Here in the fully cryogenic engine, both are in the liquid state. So what is the problem with liquid state? We have to store the liquid hydrogen at a very low temperature, minus 253 degree, which is a challenge in itself, more prone to accidents. This semi-cryogenic stage is less prone to accidents. This provides completely cryogenic stage provides more thrust, okay, more impulse, that is the more velocity, more speed. This provides less velocity but more thrust, in the sense that the weight of the satellite being carried, the weight of the object being carried in the space can be more in the semi-liquid stage, semi-cryogenic stage. It can be less in the semi-cryogenic stage. Okay, so here it is about thrust, here it is about velocity. We'll study more on this quickly. Okay, now advantages of semi-cryogenic stage: higher density impulse. The liquid oxygen kerosene combination, that is the semi-cryogenic combination. Okay, semi-cryogenic combination offers a higher density impulse compared to liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, compared to the cryogenic one, meaning more thrust can be generated for a given volume of propellant. More energy, more thrust can be generated in the semi-cryogenic stage. That is why we are developing it. Okay, now see the propellants, the problem with them. Oxidizer remains the same in both the engines, in the semi-cryogenic and in the fully cryogenic. LOX remains the same. Okay, oxidizer stored at cryogenic temperatures, that is around minus 183 degrees Celsius. Fuel in this semi-cryogenic stages, refined kerosene, can be stored at ambient temperatures, easily manageable temperatures. Now, cost effectiveness: kerosene is significantly more cost effective and easier to handle and store than liquid hydrogen. Liquid hydrogen needs to be stored at minus 253 degrees Celsius. This is not the problem with the semi-cryogenic fuel, that is kerosene, refined kerosene, RP1. So this is the advantage. You can quickly note them down. This reduces the overall mission cost and simplifies the logistics. Storing the hydrogen in the fully cryogenic stage, in the fully cryogenic rocket, is the most important challenge for ISRO, because many a times the missions fail because of mishandling of hydrogen as a fuel. Okay. Disadvantages compared to full cryogenic engine. What are the disadvantages of semi-cryogenic engine here? What are the disadvantages? Lower specific impulse. They typically have a lower specific impulse. What is the meaning of impulse? Impulse is a measure of efficiency in terms of thrust produced per unit of propellant. Thrust means the energy produced to which propels the rocket upwards is lesser as compared to the cryogenic stage. Hydrogen is more thrust producing. Okay, so by consuming 1 unit of cryogenic fuel, fully cryogenic fuel, you are able to produce more thrust here, more impulse here, leading to more velocity, leading to more coverage of distance. Okay, but in the we end up sending more payload, lesser payload in the in this stage, okay, in the cryogenic engine type. Lesser payload, that means the payload, the weight of the satellite has to be compromised for this thing, okay. So that is why we are now trying the semi-cryogenic stage. Compared to LOX liquid hydrogen engines, this means they might require more propellant for the same change in velocity. Same change in speed requires more fuel in the semi-cryogenic stage. So that is the problem here. Application, why are we developing it now? This liquid stage is earmarked for upcoming missions of GSLV F-16 that will launch NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar. Now I did a very brief, small brief on synthetic aperture radar also. Synthetic aperture radar is an active imaging system. How is it different from the regular radars? Okay, it uses the microwave signals to create images of the Earth's surface regardless of the weather or time of the day, night or evening, monsoon or you can say cold, ice sheets covered, the summer or winter, everything is taken care of in the synthetic aperture radar because it uses microwave signals. Point to be noted about the upcoming mission GSLV F-16. It is going to be between the our own agency ISRO and NASA. Okay, so SAR mission, ISRO and NASA. Name of the mission GSLV F-16. This is going to be semi-cryogenic engine based. That is why we are conducting these tests. Semi-cryo I am writing here. You can write it according to your convenience. It works by sending radar pulses. Synthetic aperture radar works by sending radar pulses and processing the reflected signals. Effectively creating a synthetic aperture that improves the resolution compared to the traditional radar systems. So UPSC, it has been observed in the science and tech section of the prelims questions that it is more interested in the application of these type of technologies. Okay, we have seen the differences. This is the technical side of it, but we should always be focused more on the application side. So this is the difference between semi-cryogenic engine and cryogenic engine. Semi-cryogenic engine more thrust, but cryogenic engine more impulse. Okay, impulse means that the semi-cryogenic fuel will have to use more fuel to produce the similar level of velocity, speed. So we'll have to burn more semi-cryogenic fuel, that is liquid oxygen plus kerosene fuel. Now coming to the other aspect, corporate social responsibility. You know, India is a country where the corporates, they do not donate like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, okay, and many other corporates in the United States, the Western model of philanthropy. First of all, understand, India is the only country where corporate social responsibility has been imposed legally. What we call as corporate social responsibility is known as corporate donations or philanthropy in the Western world. Philanthropy is an act of doing something for the sake of betterment of society or for somebody who's poor. But in India, our corporates are seen visiting various temples, religious institutions and donating their wealth. Unlike some of the good benevolent corporates like Azim Premji Foundation is there, Tata Trust is there. You talk about Adani, there is no Nadani. You getting my point? No benevolence, no compassion whatsoever until we make it to the Asia's second largest, first largest. You talk about Ambani's also, okay. A few donations here and there in the temples we are not talking about. We are talking about the damage that they do to the environment in the process of achieving that level of growth. That is why in 2013, when India's Companies Act 2013 was being passed, we introduced the mandatory corporate social responsibility upon companies which are making a decent level of profit or which are having a decent level of sale or the net worth of the company. So what are these norms? First of all, let's understand the norms here and then we will study what is happening in India. Okay, so statutory requirement under Companies Act 2013, which requires the companies to contribute 2% of their profit towards these good activities, environment restoring activities, okay, or doing something for the tribal people whose whose mineral wealth is being exploited, and in the process the water aquifers, the groundwater in that area is being polluted. So what is it? Company having a net worth of rupees 500 crore or more should donate 2% of its profits. Every company having a sale of 1000 crore rupees or more. Every company has a net profit of rupees 5 crores. If a company has got a net profit of rupees 5 crore or more, they need to comply with corporate social responsibility provisions. Here I am adding or. It is not and. If any of these criteria are met, company is required under section 135 of the Companies Act to donate money, okay, to contribute towards corporate social responsibility. Now actually what is happening, these companies have started trusts whom we cannot trust. They are siphoning of funds. Okay, the siphoning off of funds is happening in a manner that funds are being diverted to Jhola Chap, the NGOs which are known only for diverting money, money laundering, etc. So that is happening. And on the good side also, if PepsiCo is diluting, if PepsiCo is donating or contributing 2%, it is recharging the same groundwater which it is depleting to make more Pepsi bottles. Okay, Coca-Cola applies the same thing. So the soft drink companies are depleting the groundwater level, and in turn recharging the same groundwater level to exploit it again. So can we call that corporate social responsibility or corporate profit responsibility, right? For the next year, they want to generate further profit. That is why recharge of the groundwater is important. This was not the intent of corporate social responsibility. Now, shall I tell you an interesting thing? This was made in 2013. Look at the year of the question. 10 years, 11th year, the question is being asked. This is not the phenomena you can apply anywhere. But yes, this is something to follow when you are facing the decadal year, 10 years of something, 5 years of 25 years of something. This pattern can fetch you 10-15 marks easily in the mains exam. Prelims even more. Okay, same applies to your modern history. If 1919 is there, 2019 is there, question related to 1919 will be asked in the modern history. Okay, so same thing is there. Now coming to what is happening here, the CSR spend listed firms record 16% increase in the spend to around 18,000 crore rupees. This figure was flat around 15,000, 16,000 crore rupees for last 3 years. What such thing has happened in this year that the CSR funds have increased to 18,000 crore rupees, around 18,000 crore rupees? What is the reason behind it? Okay, so 418 companies, 30% of the companies spent exactly the prescribed amount. 681 companies, almost 40%, 49% of the companies exceeded their prescribed limit of 2%. Okay, so they were also required to spend 2%. They spent 2%. Here, they are increasing 2%. 259 companies, 24% missed the mandatory spending. That is 249 companies were there in 2022, 2023. Their expenditure was less than 2% of their average net profits. Why is it happening? What happens if a company is not able to spend? Primarily due to companies undertaking multi-year project. So if a project is spanning 3 years, 4 years to complete, then the money being spent in year 2022 will reflect in 2023, 2024, because the project is not completed yet. So how can you state the expenditure on it? Then they transfer the unspent amount to their unspent CSR account. So are the companies allowed to have an unspent CSR account in their balance sheet, in their profit and loss? Yes. Okay, they cannot retain it, but they can show it as unspent CSR account when the project is a multi-year project. Project will take 2-3 years to complete. Nonetheless, they are spending the funds on it. Okay, if the amount remains unspent after 3 years, so they have to spend the funds within 3 years. If still it remains unspent, then what would they do? They are supposed to transfer it to Prime Minister's National Relief Fund or PM Cares Fund. This is the new piece of information that we are adding from here, okay, which is conventionally not given on various IAS preparation websites. Okay, so that is why reading of the newspaper and incorporating these things are important. Number of companies spending on CSR increased to 1367. 98% of the companies of 98% of 1394 in 2023 from 1272 98. So that means more companies are making more profit. This we can derive from this piece of the headline itself, right? Now, change in sector-wise spending, largest increase has been observed in environmental sustainability, which includes water recharge, groundwater recharge, planting more trees, etc. Okay, and even installing more solar panels. This has been made eligible. Okay, more solar power, rooftop solar power panels are installed by big companies atop their roof to generate more power. Okay, so this power is used for providing electricity to the air conditioners. This is also covered under environment sustain. This is the catch basically, isn't it? If I am generating electricity for for powering my building, for giving electricity to my air conditioners, how is that a corporate social responsibility? Rather than this, making green buildings, ventilated buildings is the way to go, isn't it? Making buildings earthquake resistant can still be qualified, but using ACs all the time just by powering them with the solar panels, solar power, is not ethically, is not legally, rightfully the mandate of corporate social responsibility. It becomes corporate sham responsibility. Sham is mere show off, okay, mere compliance with, I mean, showing something else than what you are actually doing. National heritage, okay, then 5% of the funds have been spent on it. Largest decrease has been observed in slum development, rural development, armed forces veterans. So the decline reflects the declining attention of the government towards these things. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, etc. They have been completed now, so lesser funds are being spent. How these slum development funds were being spent? If I am a company, GMR, I am evacuating people, I am shifting people to some other location. The money that I spent on, the money that my company GMR spends on the welfare of those people who are being shifted will qualify for CSR. Not to talk about the land worth crores of rupees which was spent in this manner. Clear? So this is how things are happening. Now coming to the other topic of the day, let's have a look at the mains question that I wanted you to have pay some attention to. From traditional Indian philanthropy to Gates buffet model, a national progress, a natural progress, or a paradigm shift? So our Indian philanthropy is various religions, even Islam, Hinduism, even your Buddhism and even Sikhism say that of the amount that you are earning, of the money that you are earning on a monthly basis, you should donate 10% of it, right? Or some certain percentage of it. But in the Western model, what happens is they loot, they plunder the system, they earn a lot, and then when they are about to die, they donate all their wealth. Okay, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. This is the Western model. Is it a natural progression? Indian model of philanthropy was far better. You earn something on a monthly or yearly basis, you donate a part of it. You earn something, you donate a part of it. Okay, this is how the UPSC questions essay, if not the mains questions, then at least the essay topic has been so framed, capturing every aspect of your life, even philanthropy, even corporate social responsibility thing, etc. Okay, now coming to the other topic, India's household debt increases, but manageable, savings down. But the debt is manageable, savings rate is down. Okay, earlier in 2006-7 we used to have a savings rate of 32%, okay, of which 29% will get converted into investments by banks as the main channel of Indian households saving their money. As a bank will get money from house number 1, house number 2, any household, okay, because we usually used to park our savings with the bank. But this phenomena is now getting reversed. You are eligible for 5 lakh rupees loan. Click to know more. The moment you see this button on your tap, on your Paytm, or on your MobiKwik application, various other loan applications, you are more prone to buying an iPhone, right? That means the consumer spending is increasing at the cost of household savings. That is why the Indian households are under debt. This is what Morgan Stanley is saying. Morgan Stanley is a US based firm or a financial institution. It has said that it has increased marginally, that Indians are borrowing more. Earlier, they were in debt to the extent of 23.1% of GDP in the previous year. This has now increased to 24% of the GDP. Households buying, I mean, we buying more than our income is a good thing. At least for the short to medium term, economy will get a boost, because a person who is not eligible for buying a mobile phone, eligible in the sense that capable of buying an iPhone or capable of buying a fashionable item, thanks to the EMI culture, thanks to the credit card culture, he would end up buying more than his capacity. This will give a boost to the sales, which in turn will give a boost to the production, which in turn will give a boost to the employment. Okay, which seems to be a C. Consumer spending more it all starts from here, using the credit card or any other such instrument, or on EMI booking a package to Pahalgam, right? So then going there, consumer spending more will lead to more sales. More sales will lead to more demand. More demand will lead to more production. More production will require more investment. More investment will lead to more employment. More employment will lead to more salary, more income for the households. Okay, this is how the virtuous cycle of business cycle, or you can say the production cycle, improves. Okay, this is a good thing. But what if this tire gets punctured? People borrow more than what they are able to pay. Okay, is saving money good or spending in terms of economy? This is what I'm explaining. If this is not going to be long lasting, consumer spending is more. If the consumer's income does not increase permanently, okay, if it does not lead to increase in the income permanently, then the more investment, Tatas, Adanis, Ambanis, that the investment they make, they also borrow money from the banks. Okay, Tatas, Ambanis, Adanis. So what happens is they make an investment for some kind of a demand, for that kind of a demand which itself is not permanent. Okay, if they make a investment for something that is non-permanent, setting up a factory on the basis of iPhone demand in India. If the demand is not permanent, then the loans that Ambanis and Adanis have borrowed from PNB, it will also become a bad debt. This is what happened in the United States of America in the form of subprime lending crisis of 2007 and 8. These lectures are more of explanation lectures. Some part of economy I will daily explain, some part of international relations, some part of science and technology we will have explanation on, rather than merely reading out the news articles. Okay, so if more sales are happening but they are temporary in nature, okay, so as I said in the beginning, temporary thing can last for 2 to 5 to 7 years. After that, this tire of consumer spending more will burst, leading to NPAs. Retail loan NPAs will be there. Okay, retail loans will puncture, leading to bad effect on the balance sheet of the banks. Loans will not be paid. This will reflect adversely upon the investment that was made by big corporates. Okay, big corporates, they will see a decline in demand after 5 to 7 years. This will lead to a big blot, a kind of big effect on the economy. So that is why, see, business cycles, first there is an increase in the demand, that is called as boom. After blast, after that it is depression, recession, then depression will start. Okay, even though this is good for the short run. Now this is what Morgan Stanley is trying to highlight, that the after the pandemic, the the Indian households are over leveraging. That means they are over borrowing in comparison to their income levels. Okay, so this is the problem. Now, this phenomena is not as worrisome in India, because this, in India's case, the household borrowing is just 23.9%, 24% of GDP. But if you talk about the European countries, they are neck deep in debt. Okay, their borrowing level is 125% of GDP. If their salary is 1 lakh, they have to pay 1,25,000 every month, and they go on borrowing. And in today's newspaper itself, what the small snippet was there in the Hindu newspaper, it said that credit card to credit card transfer of balances now allowed by Indian banks. That means if you are not able to pay the credit card balance of HDFC credit card, you can pay the balance, you can transfer the balance from ICICI to HDFC. Okay, now a borrower can have 18 credit cards. He will use all of them, buy iPhone 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and one fine day he will have a pack of cards, tash ke patte, for credit cards, right? This is what happens in the Western economies also. So this is what this talks about. Okay, marginal dip in the total household savings rate is going down. India is known for saving. Country like India, they save more in the banks, and then banks give the long term credit to the companies. Okay, loans to the Vijay Mallya type of, or good companies type of, Adani, etc. They generate wealth for the nation. But if the saving rate goes down, it becomes a consumption culture. This may not bode well, provided no innovations are happening in the country. Okay, so this is the point here. Now, coming to the other aspect, RBI's regulatory tightening was done to have the asset quality review of the banks, as to whether the assets, the loans lent by bank, they are of good quality or bad quality. Okay, localized stress in the unsecured microfinancial institution loans. Who borrow microfinancial institutions loan? The poor people. So the effect will be visible there. Okay, so microfinancial institutions, this is how the structure is there in India. Banks are at the apex level. Bank lend to NBFCs. Then there are micro NBFCs. Okay, micro NBFCs. So the first stress level, the first stress is visible at the micro NBFC level, where poor people, the self-help groups, those who borrow for their petty needs, etc., they are not able to pay. This reflects on the NBFC level. NPAs start increasing. Okay, and when NPAs increase, NBFCs, the ones who have borrowed loans from the banks like SBI, etc., they also stop paying. This is how the vicious cycle sets in. The stress is visible at the micro NBFC level, in the sense that the borrowers, like people, small petty people who borrow loan of 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 rupees for setting up a shop in the flea market, in the weekly bazaars, weekly markets in India. If they stop paying, then NBFCs will see thousands of crores of losses in terms of loans that they have borrowed from SBI, PNB, etc. So this is how India's banking sector is working. Okay, so all this was there in today's news analysis. I have thoroughly analyzed this topic so as to give you the background knowledge. Just go through the text given on this slide, 2-3 slides once, so have a better understanding of, better application of the concept that we have understood in this class. I hope it really helps. Please do comment on this economy, last 5 minutes of economy that we have covered, insofar as whether you want these type of things to be, the explanation part to be incorporated, or you want just to, you expect from me to just read out the news things and explain here and there a bit of small things. Okay, so your views guide how we conduct these sessions going forward. Okay, so this was all. Let's conclude the session for the day. If there are any doubts with regard to any aspect of your preparation, do let me know in the comment section. And for the PDF, guys, the link of the Telegram channel is given in the description box. You can download the PDF of this DNA from there. I post 3-4 questions with regard to the news analysis, every aspect of the current affairs, on the Telegram channel that we have. You can subscribe to the Telegram channel for these MCQs, the PYQs also, and some material with regard to the topics that we cover or not cover insofar as current affairs are concerned. With this, I conclude the session. Thank you. Have a good day, guys. See you again at the same time 8:15 to 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.